Hey guys, so it's time for part 2 of the video series where I'm going to talk about preparing to have new Affs broken in front of you. And we're going to be going a little bit more in detail about all of the stuff that I talked about in last week's video, starting with what you should do before the tournament. So I talked about how you should identify different potential types of plans based on the resolution, and I'm going to show you what that might look like right now. So just for the sake of the video, we're going to use the first proposed topic for the 2025-2026 NFALD season. The USFG should substantially increase its military presence and/or scientific research in the Arctic or Antarctic. So we have a couple of different options based both on this military presence, scientific research, and then Arctic or Antarctic. So option 1 would just be like the whole thing, something that increases everything. Then there could be military presence in the Arctic, military pres in the Antarctic. Then there could be scientific in the Arctic, scientific in the Antarctic. And you get where I'm going with this, right? Any possible permutation of these 4 areas, you would want to write out. And if you're starting to see some patterns with Affs, like there's a lot of Affs talking about a specific type of military presence or a specific type of scientific research, like climate research, that's being done over and over again, you might want to have a climate research heading. Then, for each of these different areas, you're going to look through all of the disads, the counterplans, the theory, and the case that you have, and decide what you would want to read against that generic type of affirmative. So I might decide, okay, if they're doing military presence in the Arctic, I might want to do, maybe I'll read A-Spec, I'll read the Russia DA, and I'll read the Security K, because I think that would link to every military presence in the Arctic Aff, regardless of what the specific mechanisms they choose are, the specific action that they do is. Regardless, I think it's going to link to all of these things. And then I would pull any solvency arguments that I already have that would link to, again, any affirmative that falls under this category. That's the big thing to keep in mind, is it has to link to anything. And so here I've chosen a theory argument, a disad, and a K. I could choose instead to do a disad and a counterplan. I could choose to do multiple disads. I should probably do multiple disads and a counterplan if that's the strategy that I'm choosing. And then for the security K, I want to have my 2 links. And these I might want to come up with on the spot, or if I have militarism, like I have a militarism link. Oh, geez. Militarism link, and I have an Arctic link. And then I can add more on the spot. Not like that. More on the spot as needed. Perfect. And then if I have like generic, anything gets rolled back. I have like Trumpers, the Trump thumps, whatever. Any generic solvency arguments I have that would have to do with this. So I would do that for every single option that I have, and you see like a prerequisite of this would be that I have my positions already written. Okay. So I've found my generics, which is step 2. And I've added my generic solvency arguments. Then I would want a separate impact defense file or folder. And what I mean by that is you want to have a file where you list out all of the potential impacts that you expect Affs to read. So a really obvious one here would be like a war, nuclear war, impact, climate change impact, economic collapse, be like energy security, any kind of impact that an argument about this could conceivably have. And once you have your list, you're going to find cards explaining why that impact isn't necessarily important. So you would want to find, for example, cards that say nuclear war would never happen, that it wouldn't cause extinction, that it would actually be good. That's more of an impact turn, but it's something that you could potentially find. And you would want to do that for every possible impact. I'll specify that's an impact turn. So you would do literally the same thing for climate change. Climate change is being solved. Climate change is not existential. And then climate change is good. It's an impact turn. Now, depending on what you read as the negative, you might not be able to read all of these arguments. If you're reading a climate change impact, maybe you can't read any of them. But it's good to have a file where you have all of these potential things. And you can have multiple cards for all of these and then just choose whatever's best in the round. Okay, now let's talk about before the round. So after disclosure has happened, you want to create your NR and your NC docs. So you want to have named documents that are like the title of the round, your opponent, NC or NR. The reason you want to have them named and saved already is so that the second the round begins, as soon as you have access to the doc, you can start your prep. You also want to have your emergency files, that's what I'm calling this, your emergency file open, and your impact D file, so that you're ready to start putting stuff in your doc as soon as possible. This is where understanding verbatim well is also helpful, because you want to make sure you know how to use the tilde function. Basically how that works is that anytime you have your cursor on either, let me show you, a block, hat, or pocket, and you hit tilde, everything in that section up until you hit the next block, hat, or pocket will automatically move into the document that you have chosen here. And I only have one other document open, document 2, but let's say that I choose that, and I hit tilde, that's that little squiggle button, and as you can see on the demo 1AC, it's shown up. So that's really helpful. So understanding verbatim is something that would probably fall under this pre-tournament prep, but it's still something to keep in mind before the round as well. And then finally, mindset. Like I said in the previous video, just because it's a new affirmative doesn't mean that you're automatically going to lose the round, or that you won't have anything at all. If you've done this work before the tournament has happened, it's actually pretty straightforward answering new Affs, and sometimes it can be preferable because it's your opponent's first time debating the Aff as well, so maybe they're not as confident in executing whatever tricks that they have implemented or carrying out whatever spikes that they've written. So just try and maintain a positive attitude as much as possible. And yeah, that's kind of all you can do before prep. If it's a new Aff, you can look at what their teammates are reading. You can look at what other Affs have been broken so far at this tournament. But other than that, that's kind of all you can do. Then, as soon as the 1AC starts, as soon as you have access to the doc, that's our final phase, you're going to go ahead and put in your 1NC based on the topic area that it fits in. And let's say that somehow this new affirmative is not something that you predicted at all. Hopefully that shouldn't be the case, but if it is, it doesn't apply to this stuff, you can remove the specific arguments that no longer link, or add in different arguments that actually do end up linking, which is more likely to happen than the other way around, is that there's actually other stuff that they do link to that you couldn't have guessed that they would, if you're doing this correctly. As soon as you're done with that, you want to start looking at the affirmative's actual case and start looking for problems with it. So are there advantages that are missing uniqueness? Are there cards that are power tagged? There's not actually any evidence saying that there is a link. Are the impacts missing? Or are they missing internal links? These are all things that you want to try and identify before you add your solvency arguments and before you start writing your analytics. Hopefully by the time that cross-ex has happened, you've decided generally what arguments you want to make on case so that you can finish typing those up as cross-ex goes, and then maybe take like 30 seconds of prep before you put your doc in the speech drop or in the email chain. But as you can see, it's really not an overwhelming thing because you will still have a 1NC ready. It's just going to be generic. It won't be as specific, but it'll still be essentially ready to go. The other benefit of having this done already is that now, whenever you have to write a 1NC to a specific AF that you do get ahead of time, you have a template to work off of. So you're not immediately starting with nothing. You have a generic NC that you can work off of. And that'll save you a lot of time, especially when you're prepping at the tournament, when you don't have like weeks in between to do a ton of extensive research. You have your off-case positions already chosen, and then you can focus just on specific case arguments or coming up with a specific advantage counterplan that you think would be helpful, stuff like that. Not just deciding like, which of my generics links to this affirmative. Hopefully this was helpful. Next week we'll be going over a specific AF and going over how to do that analysis where you're identifying gaps. So stick around for that, and I will see you then. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Bye.